Westgate Mall. Terrorist attack, a day of terror in Nairobi. We will explore the tragic events of September 24, 2013, in Nairobi, Kenya, detailing the attack's impact and aftermath. On a seemingly ordinary day, laughter and joy filled Westgate Mall. But this peaceful scene was shattered as four armed men approached, their sinister intent about to unfold. Chaos erupted as gunfire and grenades echoed through the mall. Eyewitnesses recount the terrifying moments as panic and casualties soared. Amidst the siege, tales of bravery emerged. Security and first responders fought to save lives, and those trapped sought refuge, showcasing incredible resilience. Kenyan forces and international teams responded. Rescue efforts commenced, marking the end of the siege. However, the cost was significant. With many lives lost, we honor the victims and acknowledge the enduring pain. Remembering the tragedy and learning from it is vital to fostering resilience and healing. Westgate Mall attack, a symbol targeted. This video examines the 2013 Westgate Mall terror attack, its significance, and the factors leading to the targeting. Al-Shabaab had threatened retaliation. Kenya's military intervention in Somalia was the catalyst. The group sought to retaliate against Kenya. As a symbol of modern Kenya, the mall was a potent target. The attack aimed to strike at the heart of Kenyan society and destabilize the nation. For the militants, striking Westgate meant striking Kenya's pride, its sense of modernity, and its ties to the international community. The attackers' goal was not only to kill, but to send a message that no place, however polished or secure it seemed, was beyond their reach. Just before 12:30 p.m., a silver Mitsubishi Lancer pulled up outside the mall. Inside sat four men: Hassan Abdi Duhulo, a Norwegian Somali; Omar Naban, a Somali Kenyan; Abubar al-Sudani, a Sudanese; and Khatab al-Kaneh, a Somali. Each had trained with Al-Shabaab. Each was prepared to die, dressed in civilian clothes. They carried AK-47s, grenades, and ammunition hidden in bags. As they stepped out of the car, witnesses later recalled they looked calm, almost casual. But moments later, they unleashed chaos. The first shots rang out near the main entrance, cutting down shoppers and security guards without warning. Grenades exploded at the ground floor entrance where families were entering. In seconds, laughter and chatter were replaced with screams and the stampede of terrified civilians. Inside, pandemonium spread. Some shoppers froze, unsure if the sounds were fireworks. Others ran blindly, knocking over displays and spilling food across tiled floors. Parents clutched their children, dragging them behind counters or into storerooms. One survivor described it as like a movie scene, but with no escape button. Another remembered grenades raining down like maize dropped to chickens, the scattering bodies and leaving dust, smoke, and blood in the air. Within the first 15 minutes, dozens lay dead or wounded. The attackers advanced deliberately, firing into crowds, reloading with practiced ease. Their mission had only just begun. Survivors recall the attackers moving systematically. They were not rushing. They were hunting. Witnesses say they shouted commands in Somali and Arabic, demanding to know who was Muslim. Those who could recite Islamic prayers were ordered to leave. Others, Christians, Hindus, anyone who hesitated, were executed on the spot. On the rooftop, where children were competing in a cooking contest, panic erupted. Parents shielded their kids, trying desperately to lead them down staircases while bullets cracked overhead. In the parking lot, people abandoned cars and lay flat on the ground, praying not to be seen. Inside the Nakamat supermarket, dozens of shoppers hid in cold storage rooms. Some lay silently for hours, clutching their phones, too afraid to call for help in case the sound gave them away. Meanwhile, Kenyan police units rushed to the scene, but their efforts were hampered by confusion. The General Service Unit, GSU, regular police, and the Kenyan Defense Forces all converged, but without a clear command structure. At one point, soldiers fired on police officers they mistook for attackers. Friendly fire claimed more lives than necessary. even as brave officers tried to evacuate civilians. The lack of coordination turned the rescue into chaos. In those first hours, terror reigned inside Westgate. The toll was devastating. 67 innocent lives lost, over 200 injured. The victims were as diverse as Nairobi itself. Children celebrating birthdays, business executives meeting clients, foreign nationals shopping for souvenirs. Ghanaian poet and diplomat Kofi Obunor was among the dead, as was Elif Yavuz, a young UN official weeks away from giving birth. Families were torn apart in minutes, but amid the horror, stories of heroism shone through. Off-duty officers, unarmed at first, rushed into the smoke-filled corridors to pull civilians out. Volunteers, including Somali Kenyans, risked their own lives to rescue strangers, defying the very stereotypes al-Shabaab hoped to enforce. One man, later hailed as a hero, carried multiple injured children to safety, returning again and again under fire. Another group of civilians formed human chains to guide the terrified out of darkened stairwells. Even in the face of brutality, humanity refused to disappear. A survivor later recalled, "I thought I would die there, but strangers, people I didn't even know, pulled me up and carried me. I owe them my life." For every act of violence that day, there was also an act of courage. As the siege stretched into its second and third days, investigators began piecing together how the attackers had managed such precision. The truth was chilling. Months before the assault, al-Shabaab operatives had quietly rented a store inside the mall. Under the guise of a normal business, they smuggled weapons, ammunition, and grenades into hidden rooms. They studied the mall's layout, noting weak points in its security and escape routes through ventilation shafts. When the attack began, they already knew exactly where to strike. The Kenyan security response, however, exposed deep flaws. Rival units clashed over jurisdiction. At one point, Kenyan Defense Forces mistakenly shot the commander of the elite recce squad, Martin Munene, one of their own. Other soldiers were accused of looting electronics and jewelry during the siege, tarnishing the public's trust. First responders acted swiftly. Kenyan forces faced challenges. While international agencies assisted, rescue operations aimed to contain the situation and save lives. For 4 agonizing days, the battle dragged on. Civilians trapped inside sent text messages to loved ones, whispering updates as gunfire echoed in the background. Outside, crowds gathered, watching helplessly as smoke rose from the mall. When the siege finally ended on September 24th, all 4 attackers were dead. The mall lay in ruins, burned, scarred, and soaked with blood. Al-Shabaab wasted no time in claiming responsibility. On Twitter, the group broadcast updates in real time, boasting about their actions, threatening further attacks, and manipulating global media attention. For them, Westgate was not just about killing. It was about spectacle, demonstrating that even as they lost ground in Somalia, they could strike at the heart of Nairobi. The world watched in horror. Images of terrified civilians, soldiers in combat gear, and smoke rising from the luxury mall dominated global headlines. Kenya, once considered a relative island of stability in East Africa, was suddenly at the center of an international conversation about terrorism. In the years that followed, Kenya overhauled its counterterrorism strategy. Security checks became routine at malls, hotels, and airports. Intelligence sharing with international allies increased. Counter-radicalization programs were introduced to address the growing recruitment of disillusioned youth. In 2015, after extensive reconstruction, Westgate Mall reopened. For some, it symbolized resilience, a refusal to let terror win. For others, it felt like reopening a wound that had not yet healed. Survivors continued to battle trauma. Families mourned loved ones taken too soon. 2 men were later convicted for aiding the attackers. But many questions remained unanswered. How had the militants moved so freely? Why did Kenya's security agencies fail to work together? Could it happen again? The scars of Westgate were not just physical, they were emotional, political, and national. Westgate was more than an attack on a building. It was an attack on Kenya's sense of safety, on the illusion that public spaces were untouchable. It revealed vulnerabilities not just in walls and doors, but in systems of governance and security. It showed how terror can be amplified by media, how a local tragedy can become a global headline. But it also revealed something stronger: resilience. Strangers helping strangers, communities uniting in grief and defiance, a country scarred but not broken. 10 years later, Nairobi still remembers. Survivors still live with the sounds of that day echoing in their minds. Families still light candles for the loved ones they lost. Westgate remains a dark reminder, a reminder that peace is fragile, that vigilance is necessary, and that even in the face of cruelty, humanity endures. This is Westgate Under Siege, Nairobi's Dark Day.